Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the Jerusalem Center for Public Affairs War Room Update. We are on the 7th of August. It is now 10 months since the Hamas slaughter of 1,200 people, the injury of thousands of others, and the war that has really started ever since. That war has included a ring of fire created by Iran around Israel. The Hamas from the south, Hezbollah from the north, from Lebanon, the Houthis from Yemen, and the terrorist organizations that are operating in Judea and Samaria, as well as all types of Iranian militias that are operating from Syria and the north, some from Iraq. That ring of fire has been closing in for the whole 10 months. And whilst Israel has been fighting back, concentrating on destroying Hamas and trying to free all of the hostages taken, 10 months later, there are still 115 hostages being held by the Hamas in Gaza, and the fighting is carrying on all fronts. We've seen the aggression of the Houthis against the freedom of navigation in the Gulf of Eden and coming up towards the Suez Canal. We've seen Hezbollah attacking really tens of thousands of rockets and missiles and UAVs, and even anti-tank weapons being fired at Israel's south, at Israel's north. We have tens of thousands of people who are still living in suitcases. They've been expelled from their homes by the terrorists. And that is the situation that we're in. This was further complicated, obviously, last week by the elimination of Hezbollah's chief of staff and in Lebanon. And on the other hand, the assassination, the elimination of Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran. Hezbollah on their part, the Iranians on their part, have both been promising a very harsh revenge attack. And really for the last 10 days, 2 weeks, Israel has been waiting. We had that for those of our viewers who remember a little bit more of the history. It's that Tukufat Hamtana that it was called from the start of May 1967, when Israel understood that the Arab armies were about to attack. What's going to happen? In 1967, it resulted with Israel's preemptive strike against the Egyptian Air Force, destroying it entirely, against the Syrian Air Force, destroying it entirely, and really being able to gain that aerial superiority, which allowed us to then defend ourselves and win the war. At the moment, it seems that we're in a different circumstance. At the moment, we're just waiting for the Iranian response, for Hezbollah's response. And it's coming, so they say. When it's coming, we don't really know. What it will be like, we don't really know either. We know that both Iran and Hezbollah have massive arms supplies that could do a tremendous amount of damage. Just to give a little bit of an impression from studies of Hezbollah that were released quite a while ago, over 2 years ago, it would appear that they have some 20 to 40,000 long-range missiles. What does that mean, long-range? Missiles that are capable of reaching over 210 kilometers. From the border of Lebanon to Tel Aviv, it's about 160 kilometers. So we're really talking about weapons that could cover not a small size of Israel, that they don't appear afraid to use at all. The Iranians, we already saw a demonstration, albeit a small demonstration, of their capabilities on the night of the 13th, 14th of April, when they fired some 350 UAVs, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles. At the time, the damage was limited, but they showed their abilities, they showed their desire to act, and now we're just waiting to see what will happen. The question that needs to be asked is, has that response already started? On Monday night, we saw a first possible explanation of that, or example of that, when there was a mysterious explosion on an Iranian base. It's a base that they would use to fire these missiles, a massive explosion that was then explained by the Iranians as an Israeli strike. It wasn't really an Israeli strike, but what it appeared to be a failed underground launch that then exploded within the base. Was that the start of something? We don't know. And the dates that are being rolled around are really part of this psychological warfare that's continuing on. Will it come on the 9th of Av? Will it come before? Yesterday, there appeared to be a fake notice that was put out, if at all, a notice to airmen saying that between the period of 11 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon today and 4 in the morning to 7 in the morning tomorrow, airmen really flying around in that whole area between Iran and Israel should take precautions because they intend attacking. That was then denied by the Iranians. There's a lot of psyops going on, a lot of misinformation going on to help us better understand the picture. We're joined today by Colonel Dr. Jacques Neriah, an expert on everything that's going around on these fields, Lebanon, Iran. Jacques, thank you for joining us again. Give us a little bit of an understanding of where we're standing, if you could, as to where we're going. Is there going to be an attack? Is it going to be an all-out attack? Are the Iranians promising something that they can't deliver on? Is Hezbollah threatening something which they don't have the ability to really carry out? What will Israel's response be on both fronts?
Well, let me begin by saying that we are at a turning point in the war with Hamas and Hezbollah, and this turning point is going to decide the fate of the whole Middle East. In fact, the Hassan Nasrallah, the Secretary General of Hezbollah, said it very plainly, very openly, very simply. He said, "We are entering a new phase in the confrontation with Israel." And the new phase consists of two things. One thing is the perpetuation of the war of attrition with Israel, modified, meaning by widening the scope of the attacks of Hezbollah in the hinterland, Israeli hinterland. We've seen yesterday attacks on Neriah, on Akko, and Haifa to be prepared, all the industrial area of Haifa to be prepared, and from the Mediterranean Sea to the Tiberias Sea. So this is more or less the area that, according to Hezbollah, this is the attrition area that is allowed by Hezbollah, and it is widening day after day, and after each strike of Israel, we go further into depths of the territory of Israel. This is one thing, one side, one part of the response of Hezbollah facing the initiatives taken by Israel. And the second thing is the revenge, or what's the revenge on what happened against Fuad Shukur. Fuad Shukur, one of the main pillar of Hezbollah's military, and for the first time in Hezbollah's history, Hassan Nasrallah confessed and said that this was a very harsh blow given to Hezbollah. And because it is a harsh blow, the answer has to be very specific and very harsh. So Israel will repent and will stop this policy of targeting commanders. As you know, from the beginning of the war till now, Hezbollah has lost more than 40 commanders. 40 commanders, very high-ranking commanders in the Hezbollah militia, and this is weighing very hard on Hassan Nasrallah. He was very angry yesterday. You could feel that the elimination of Fuad Shukur was something that he was not expecting, and it just disturbed all his plans. Because in fact, he gave only the instructions, and the one who carried the instruction on the ground, the one who gave the orders, who just cared for finance, for logistics, for weapons, for training, this was Fuad Shukur. He was one of the three that founded the military wing of Hezbollah. Remember, Imad Mournid, Mustafa Badruddin, and Fuad Shukur. These now eliminated, there's a new generation. Now, Hezbollah was very much aware, Nasrallah was very much aware yesterday that during that speech that he was about to make, Israel just had this overfly of jets over Beirut in order to let him understand that this is not going to be as easy as he thinks. And if he believes that his answer will not be re-answered by Israel, then he is wrong. So this is why I'm saying we are entering a new phase, that it is very difficult for anybody to say what will happen next, because basically we must not forget that neither Hezbollah, neither Israel, neither Iran, nor the United States are interested in a regional war. But this regional war will fall on us if we want it or if we don't want it. Because if the answer of Hezbollah is going to be so hard as to destroy, for instance, completely an airbase or a headquarters of a territorial command, then Israel will not be silent. Israel cannot accept that fact. It has to respond, because of course, you don't win a war by eliminating commanders. You don't win a war by sending drones and inside Israel. You win a war only if you a real confrontation, an army against an army, which means that there are two possibilities: either through the air by massive air attacks by Israel, or an intrusion into Lebanese territory till the Litani. These are the options that Israel has if worse comes to worse. We know that the United States is trying to hold Israel. Of course, on the one hand, it's just rushing weapons, it's rushing the forces, the air carriers, strike forces. I mean, the Abraham Lincoln has moved in the area, and there's another aircraft carrier in the Gulf. So this is the Americans are preparing themselves. They are bracing, because already their base in Ain al-Assad in Iraq has been attacked. So I mean, they have to take into consideration that even though they're holding Israel and trying to say to Israel, hold your horses, don't go too far, because we don't want that. There's a possibility that even the United States might be involved, as it was in the 13th and 14th of April, when it stood with Israel and with Britain and France and some Arab air forces, and stopped the attacks from Iran. Now, concerning Iran. Iran has been hit, I mean, in its honor. It's honor. I mean, after all, I mean, the elimination of Ismail Haniyeh inside the guest house of the Revolutionary Guard is not something that you can just ignore or say that this is a minor event. No, this is a major event. This is a blunt strike at the sovereignty of Iran. Unlike what happened in Damascus, here this is inside Tehran, inside the guest house, and inside the Praetorian Guard of the mullah regime. So the answer has to be very specific. Since it was not carried by an air force, and according to all information that has leaked since then, that it was a bomb that was put under the bed of Ismail Haniyeh and killed him and his guard also. So the answer might be not by sending hundreds of missiles against Israel, hundreds of drones and cruise missiles. It might be sending a specific or choosing a specific target in Israel in order to make the equality between what happened in Tehran to what will happen inside Israel, meaning that the target will be a target of quality and not a massive attack. This is according to what I feel, what I assess. And I heard already some Iranians talking about hitting some houses of some of the ministers and some of the ruling class in Israel. This might be also an answer. Basically, the Iranians have looked at the scene, and they understand that provoking Israel would bring Israel into hitting inside Iran. And this is why they are rushing air defense around the nuclear facilities, around the oil facilities. These are, as always I say to my Arab auditors, I say to them very clearly, the road from Tehran to Tel Aviv is the same road from Tel Aviv to Tehran. So the distance is the same distance, and the threat that exists is doubled from our side towards Iran and from Iran towards Israel. I don't think that because of that, I don't think that Iran would be interested from its side to enlarge the response and to provoke a general deflagration in the area and a flare-up that would turn into a regional war, maybe even more than a regional war. It could be the start of a third world war. Because I mean, if we attack the nuclear facilities and the oil facilities, and then Iran will attack the facilities in Saudi Arabia and the Emirates and in Bahrain, then we are in a different ball game at all. And this is why, in my view, they would prefer Hezbollah and their own and other militias to be the one that would be that would have to respond against Israel, of course, with the Houthis. Also, this is what I feel right now, and I don't think that we are right now rushing into a situation where we will have an open confrontation with Iran, even though we cannot ignore that possibility. After all, we are not in the head of Mr. Khamenei, and Khamenei has in his mind that a harsh punishment to punish the Jews and to punish the Israel. So, I mean, to sum up, I say that there are two sets of response against Israel. One led by Iran, and the one led by Hezbollah. The one led by Hezbollah is much more. It's much more real or realistic to see, whereas the attack from Iran might be different. That might be different. In any case. If Iran decides and has decided to hit back on Israel, it has to spread and to deploy the whole array of ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, drones, and so on. And it has to put them on the ground in position, and each missile has to be fueled with liquid fuel, because this is the liquid fuel that serves those ballistic missiles, and it takes hours. It takes hours to fill that, and it is a very sensitive mission to do, and it is enough time. It is enough time on the ground to give us the alert through satellites, through our American friends, through different sources. So we'll have time to prepare ourselves, or even to preempt. This is what I believe will happen right now.
So let me go on exactly on that, Jacques, and discuss really the Iranian thought process. It seems that whilst Israel is possibly, and that's really what they've been projecting, a knee-jerk massive response. Excuse me. At the end of the day, the Iranian considerations are much more cold and calculated. That's what you're suggesting, and that there won't be this really deterioration into an entire regional war. I think that's somewhat supported by comments that were made this morning, that there seemed to be some type of progress in what's being pitched, obviously, as the Biden intervention in the situation in order to really bring down the level of the flames and reduce the level of the flames and de-escalate the situation to the extent possible. That seems to be the direction that you also feel is where we're going at the moment.
Yes, definitely. I mean, and then you just have to add that the Iranians look around them and they see themselves as the Swiss cheese. their intelligence has failed. I mean, imagine yourself, going to the house. Let's take the parallel. Introduce somebody at the house of our prime minister inside the perimeter. Put a bomb under the bed of the prime minister, and just it will blow and kill the prime minister. This is what happened in Tehran. This is the scope of the scope of the failure of intelligence. And this they understand, and this is not the first time. We have taken from Tehran all the archives of the nuclear archives. The scientists have been killed one after the other. The last one, the Fakhrizadeh, was killed by a gun that was whose order were given by a satellite. I mean, Iran is an open book for Israel, and they have to understand that Israel is able. I mean, last time Israel hit a radar inside Isfahan, and this was only a small test of what Israel is able to do, because the Americans held us at the time and asked us not to widen the scope of the answer. So the Iranians have to be very careful. Now we are on the other end of it. We have to listen very carefully to what Blinken said yesterday. Blinken said, we are closing a deal with Hamas concerning the hostages. Behind the corridors, negotiations are going on. This is what he said as the Secretary of State. And if we believe what he says, it means that, and he said that we are in the final stages of that agreement, which means, according to the Americans, that we might reach a ceasefire on Gaza. A ceasefire on Gaza will bring automatically a ceasefire in the northern front, and will open the chances for negotiating a deal, a diplomatic solution for the northern part of Israel. This is what the Americans are right now playing, and we have to. I mean, this goes against the trend of firing against Israel and hitting Israel and punishing Israel. So there might be a punishment, but this punishment might be local, might be minor, would be less than provoke Israel into the total war, and would be addressed by the Americans toward Israel by saying to them, you have to absorb that, you have to contain that, and accept the fact you have hit inside Tehran, you have it inside Beirut, now they hit you back, and that's it. Let's forget about it and go to the next step.
The whole idea of tit for tat seems to be something which really Israel shouldn't accept in any way, shape, or form. I think it, on the one hand, the US administration has been expressing support for Israel. On the other hand, constantly hindering their efforts to move forward on all types of different aspects, whether it be the response to the April 13 attack. I would like to maybe suggest that had our response been possibly harsher then, we would have been able to avoid the continuing really cycle of violence, because the Iranians would have understood already then that they breached that red line entirely on the night of the 13th of April, and therefore should have been deterred with our response. Our limited response then allowed them to get to the situation where they are now again threatening Israel, and again the US needs to be perceived as intervening and then providing that cover, while at the same time also on the deal with Hamas. It seems to be something which the US administration has been pushing now for months, not possibly understanding that Yahya Sinwar is never going to agree to any of the minimum terms that Israel is willing to agree to. So is that optimism also on that front a little bit premature? Has Sinwar, do you think, changed his opinion because of the elimination of Hania, and now, as we learned this morning, his new position as head of the Hamas political bureau? is that movement there, or is it something which the US would like to portray as a means to possibly de-escalate the situation with Iran?
Well, Maurice, there are lots of moths sent in the air and blind you. You cannot see. There is nothing transparent in the situation. Every player in the play is hiding the cards very close to his chest, holding the card very close to his chest, and playing behind the corridors the real game. Towards the public, there's a double game. The army is telling us a story. The other one is telling, the New York Times is telling us another story. The Americans are asking, are claiming to support us, sending forces, and on the other hand, they are just holding us and just preventing us from reacting against Iran. You're right. Had we reacted on the 14th of April differently, maybe Iran would have thought twice before just engaging in trying to hit us back. Right now, we are in a position where we are all the time in a responding position. We are not initiating vis-a-vis Iran, vis-a-vis the Hezbollah. We are waiting like sitting ducks, waiting to see what sort of attack are we going to absorb, what sort of attack are we going to be hit with. What is the level of suffering? How many lives are we ready to accept before hitting back? How many blood are we ready to see on the floor? How many Jewish blood are we going to see before we respond differently? This is the question, the basic question, that we have lost deterrence vis-a-vis Hezbollah and vis-a-vis Iran. And in order to return to that old formula, we have to we have to behave like those thugs in a different neighborhood. If we behave like gentlemen and cultivated persons and European or American-like behavior, we are lost in this area. We have to understand that our area is a bad one. We are surrounded with bad neighbors. And this is why we have to prove that we are the same as they are. We have the same the same values, and more than that, we have to stress the fact that we have to be, on the initiative.
Maybe, Jacques, in that same really cold calculation of how to respond, when to respond, what targets to choose, maybe a little part of that puzzle has been these ideas that have been floated really quite extensively recently about discussing and focusing really on Iran's oil terminal, something which provides 90% of Iran's oil really production and export facilities, and really maybe signaling to the Iranians, you may be able to hide your nuclear facilities tens of meters and probably hundreds of meters underground, but these facilities, which are the basis of your subsistence and the basis of your economy, are open for everyone to see, and they are very exposed. And maybe that's something which is also playing into that equation of the Iranians thinking, hold on, maybe there's something new in this game that we didn't take into account. Maybe Israel isn't only looking at a military response to a military attack, but rather a strategic response to the military threat.
Yeah, this is why, as I said earlier, the road from Tel Aviv to the distance between Tel Aviv and Tehran is the same from Tehran to Tel Aviv. And the fact that, even the oil facilities as a shorter distance than Tehran. And at, our show of force in Judea has been very much seen by, understood by the Iranians. And they are not blind. They saw what went on fire and how long this fire was burning. And the only thing is that if we hit those facilities, we might provoke, I would say, a crisis, a world crisis concerning the oil market. But I mean, this is something that has to be taken into account because I mean, if you remember, five years ago, Iran sent, and together with the Houthis, sent drones against all the facilities, the oil facilities of Saudi Arabia, and hit them very hard. So it is accepted in that game that those oil facilities become a target. And this target might be, as you said, very harmful to Iran because the main issue, the main source of revenue comes from there.
And that if we switch now just to Lebanon and Hezbollah, maybe those same principles can also be applied there. For the last 10 months, Israel has been suffering this war of attrition, Hezbollah attacking, and really both sides have almost maintained that balance of aggression. Hezbollah hasn't necessarily been attacking deep into Israel, and Israel has responded with limited force. But that's only really perpetuated the cycle of violence. That Hezbollah has been almost I don't discount what you said at the beginning, and 360, 370 Hezbollah terrorists that have been eliminated. Of them, over 40 senior Hezbollah terrorists, really brigadier generals and upwards. They've taken quite a substantial hit, but Hezbollah really hasn't seen any of the ramifications of their war against Lebanon as a country. Beirut is still functioning. Granted, the south of Lebanon, where their bases were, have been destroyed, but Hezbollah has been attacking the civilian cities in Israel. It's been attacking Kiryat Shmona, Metula, all of the border areas, Kholfesh. We saw the attack on Majd al-Shams 2 weeks ago. They've been attacking civilian installations, and Israel has been responding in a very, very limited fashion. Maybe it's time for Hassan Nasrallah to feel the weight of Israel's capabilities and response also against Beirut, against a substantial target, which would possibly have more of an influence on his thought pattern.
You know, Nasrallah was very mad in his speech when he pointed against what's happening in the northern part of Lebanon, in the Christian enclave. He says that they are celebrating their feasts and all sorts of music, the festivals going on there. And by the way, it reminded me of what happened in 1982 when we thought that the Christian militias were going to fight with us. We went in the northern part of Beirut and we saw them sunbathing and enjoying life. So and this is what's putting Nasrallah into a situation where he can't understand that. I mean, he's fighting for the Lebanese, and why the Lebanese are fleeing Lebanon by the thousands. He doesn't understand. He lives in a fantasy. He says, for instance, that Israel, there's 248,000 Israelis who left their homes. I don't know where he did take this number from. Anyway, to go back to what you say, I think yes, this is the time to stress and to rebuild our deterrence vis-a-vis Hezbollah. And this deterrence can be done only by a massive attack on Hezbollah. This massive attack hasn't occurred till now, and this is, I think, this is the opportunity that maybe will not come back again, where, of course, we will have to suffer from missiles and from heavy damage done inside Israel, but we will do something that Hezbollah will regret, because what Hassan Nasrallah is boasting about, that Hezbollah has changed from 2006 till now, from the second Lebanese war till now. It is a different monster. Well, you know, he doesn't know what happened in Israel. He doesn't know how Israel has built itself. And when he meets with this reality, he will wake up like he woke up after the second Lebanese war, and he will say, had I known that this will happen, I wouldn't have started that thing. And as from 2006 till 2024, we had 18 years of peace. Maybe this time we will have 40 years.
That's exactly it. Even in 2006, most of Israel's response in the area of Beirut was focused on the Dahya. Since then, Hezbollah has understood the limitations of warfare, but not on a positive front, but rather understanding that they can use and abuse what are perceived to be the laws of war to place all of their terrorist infrastructure all around Beirut, all within the civilian population, in the hope that Israel won't attack those sites. And maybe it's something that Israel should now consider as part of that wider response, really attacking just the military sites within Beirut. And there's been a number of publications on where those long-range missiles are, the use of Beirut airport by the Iranians, by Hezbollah, as a major artery for receiving really advanced weaponry. Maybe that's something which Hassan Nasrallah has to take into account, that this time the response won't be limited only to Hezbollah strongholds, but rather to every military site, which will really,
you know,
take a big price from Lebanon.
His spy drones and the Hudhud, as he says, the Hudhud, the 1, Hudhud 2, Hudhud 3, he's drunk. He's drunk from his power, from his own power. He believes that he has means that can hurt Israel very hard. And he is right. He has means that can hurt us. But the thing is that he doesn't even understand how much we can hurt him, how much we can hurt the infrastructure in Lebanon, how much his positions can be destroyed, how much of these people are going to suffer, how many refugees you will have from Lebanese town that will just rush into Beirut in the areas to just flee from the threat by Israel. And Israel has to prove that this is the way it behaves. Because if we are going to continue to behave like civilized people, then we are on the losing side of history.
I think that's part of the discussion that's really been going on for a very, very long time, also as part of the deterrent to the Iranians and to the mullahs and their progress towards nuclear weapons. It's a credible military response that has to be on the table, and it has to be understood that this response is going to really take a massive price, both from Iran, from Hezbollah, from Lebanon. That's what Israel needs to show, and it's something which we don't seem to have been projecting over the last 10 months in any way, shape, or form. We've been really just taking the blows, accepting that this is part of the reality, that Hassan Nasrallah and Hezbollah can attack us in the north for 10 months and really they won't pay a substantial price, that Iran can fire 330, 350 ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, UAVs, and the price is minimal. That's not something which inspires deterrence.
Maurice, it is unacceptable that a drone that came from Yemen and hit Tel Aviv, 100 meters from the American embassy, and caused the death of one Israeli. And because of that, we just sent 100 planes to Judea. And what's happening in the north? We are doing nothing. We are doing nothing. We are just responding. We are playing. I mean, sending a plane here, a plane there, eliminating one commander, another commander. We are not playing the right game vis-a-vis Hezbollah, and this is wrong. This is wrong because Hezbollah understand that as a weakness from Israel, as Israel is fearing to enter a situation of open confrontation with Hezbollah, and unless he understand that this is not the case, the war will continue with Hezbollah. The war of attrition will continue, and he will continue to hit us, and we will continue to suffer. As he says yesterday, I mean, this is a mockery. He says that waiting for the Hezbollah answer is part of the punishment. Who is he to punish us? Who is Hezbollah to punish Israel? I ask you that.
That's exactly it, Jacques. We seem to be, I think that one of the outstanding qualities of Israel, that's the whole idea of the startup nation, that we're able to create that ingenuity, that thinking outside of the box. And for the moment, we seem to be just not only in the box and playing
buried in the box,
and we're playing by Hassan Nasrallah's playbook. maybe it's time to really to break out, to think of and really implement something that's different, that can be a game changer. Because what we've done until now, the same old, has brought us to the situation where Hezbollah seems to be emboldened from day to day. I recently saw really a digital explanation, or a digital picture of how the range of the Hezbollah's attacks into deeper and deeper into Israel has just grown and grown and grown over the last 10 months. And it's something which we need to get out of that cycle of being the victim, and to regain our ability to and regain our deterrence as someone who won't be just attacked and be waiting, as you say, for this the last of the terrorists to implement his punishment on us.
I would say more than that. I would say, I mean, from the concept, the ideology, the Zionist ideology, our people on the borders are, in fact, our wall against terrorism. Against, I mean, if we won't have people in Shlomi, in Margaliot, in Metula, in Yiftach, and other places, then our borders are open. Israel is open to the enemy. These are our fortifications, and we have to understand that it is, I mean, the fact that our people has deserted this area, evacuated because of the government has given a wrong directive, a wrong instruction of leaving the area. Then this is what we are paying right now. And this is what Hezbollah is boasting about. He says this is the biggest accomplishment done since 1948. And what he's doing is continuing to press so that people from living in Neriah, living in Akko, living in Rosh Hanikra, and living in Haifa would just leave and just create a desert that Hezbollah will boast about and say, this is what we did. This is my legacy to history.
So, Jacques, unfortunately, as our time runs out, as it always does on me, unfortunately, I want to leave us with one positive note going forward, maybe on the question of do you believe that Israel's government has the courage now to stop, reassess, and to adopt a different policy in response to both the Iranian and the Lebanese aggression?
Maurice, I said at the beginning of my comments here that we have reached a turning point. In fact, we cannot go beyond that. Our government cannot evade making a decisive decision about the fate of the state of Israel. And this involves a confrontation with Hezbollah, a confrontation with Iran, and I mean, be it the price that we have to pay. Because beyond that price, the good days will come after. But we have to suffer in order that we will have to suffer as much as he has to suffer, and Iran will have to suffer in order to reach that area. And I believe that we have the means, we have the strengths, and we have more than that. We are on the right side of history, and we are fighting the axis of evil.
So that's really the question, Jacques. Who does Prime Minister Netanyahu want to be maybe compared to for generations and for history? Does he want to be in the position of Levi Eshkol ordering that preemptive strike in June 1967, or does he want to be on the side of Prime Minister Golda Meir, waiting and waiting and waiting, and then eventually seeing that massive attack and only then responding? I would like to believe that Prime Minister Netanyahu and the government are going to take us in that positive direction of changing this paradigm from this really disastrous position that we've been on for the last 10 months, and now to really turn those tables and lead us to the restoration of our deterrence and really the ability to stand up to these bullies and show them that Israel isn't a kicking box. Jacques, thank you very much for joining us. We will be back with you again next week, obviously. And in the meantime, everyone stay safe, and we will, if there are changes in the situation, we will obviously update everyone, and I reserve the right, as I always do, Jacques, to call on you again to help us navigate those that really murky waters that we're going through. In the meantime, everyone stay safe, and we will see you again. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye bye.